change the world.
Hi, I'm Kellene Bishop, the Preparedness Pro. You can find us at PreparednessPro.com to get all kinds of information, tips, tricks, mythbusters, all kinds of education on becoming more self-reliant and better prepared. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is one of my most favorite assets in my kitchen, and that is my pressure cooker. Now there's also two different things that people tend to get mixed up, is a pressure cooker and a pressure canner. You can cook in a canner, but you cannot can in a cooker. It doesn't have enough volume to can those jars. Whereas your pressure canner, where you put the jars in and you seal them, you can actually cook in this as well. But it will take up an awful lot of fuel and time to get this to come up to full pressure. This is the brand of pressure cooker that I actually highly recommend. It's called a Kuhnrikon, Kuhnrikon. They are Swiss made, and the European countries know a heck of a lot more about pressure cookers than we do here. There are some other brands that are made here in the US, but they just haven't cut it yet. You'll also see this label sometimes on them, Duromatic. And I'm not sure why it's a dual label, because it says Duromatic here, and then it says Kuhnrikon here. Anyway, these are the best made. They have several safety features. If it's something that you're going to rely on for your life and for feeding your family, I strongly encourage you to invest in quality pressure cookers and even pressure canners. The only other brand that I recommend, it's a step down price-wise from Kuhnrikon, but it has great quality to the sturdiness of the metal and all the safety features, and that's called the BRK brand. Now you can find the Kuhnrikon, the BRK brand online easy. You can also find it at any stores that sell Bosch kitchen appliances or kitchenware. Alright, so with the pressure cooker, there's all different kinds of sizes. It's just whatever's best for your family. Now for me, my husband and I, that's all there is. But I still like these other bigger ones. I got a set once of this one and this one, I believe. This is, you can actually skillet. I use it as a skillet. I also use it as a small pot, like I would. As long as you don't fill it more than 2/3 full, you're good. You can use it. I'd say this size and this size are my favorites that I use all the time. These are actually the same size. They just have a different, this has the long handle, and I actually prefer the long handle on my pressure cookers. Anyway, with a pressure cooker, it basically will it'll take your food and it'll consistently beat at it with this hot steam. Your nutrients are not flying away into the atmosphere, they're staying right here. You're going to get a concentrated flavor. Your meat is going to taste just that much more meatier. You can use less herbs because you're going to get that flavor of the herbs that you put in to permeate. Also, there's some pretty fascinating things that you can do with a pressure cooker. You can make, beef stew from frozen beef to absolutely perfect in about 40-45 minutes. You can do dried beans in a matter of 30 minutes without having them soak overnight. Why spend money on a rice cooker when you can use a pressure cooker and the rice will turn out perfect? It doesn't matter if it's brown rice, regular rice, it will turn out perfect in a matter of minutes. In fact, I'm going to record another tip and trick episode, and we're going to make risotto. Risotto typically is one of those difficult things that chefs pride themselves in being able to make, kind of like a souffle, but with the risotto, traditionally it's going to take you about an hour, and you have to constantly be adding more liquid at 10-minute intervals and stirring it constantly. We're going to make in another episode, we're going to make a risotto in less than 12 minutes and have it just be beautifully perfect. So many things you can do. I bought this bigger one. I asked Santa Claus for it, actually. I bought this bigger one because I wanted to have a nice big roast, but I also wanted to have plenty of room for the potatoes that I put in at the end. Because this, when you put in a pot roast and just throw everything in there, it makes the most delicious gravy. And with those potatoes, it just has that perfect thickness. So it's not that I needed a bigger roast, I just needed more room for the potatoes. Alright, so here's what your pressure cookers look like. Let me show you the dynamics of it. It's kind of interesting. I've been watching a lot of television shows on the Food Network, especially the competition shows, And you'll show a chef who, because they're limited in time, they'll try to use a pressure cooker. And they're always struggling with the lid and getting it on and getting it off and getting the pressure release. And I'm just dumbfounded. Why? Because these are so very, very simple. Basically, you have a small arrow right here on the lid. And you're going to align that arrow when you're getting the lid on. You're just going to rotate here. Now your arrow is aligned to the arrow that's on the side of the pan. So to put it on, that's all you have to do. It's very subtle. You just put it on and twist, okay? You never want to remove the lid of a pressure cooker until all of the pressure has been expelled. When you are cooking something in the pressure cooker, this little indicator is going to tell you whether you're cooking at high pressure or low pressure. Just one line, that's your low pressure. That's typically the pressure level that you're going to use to make pastas and rice, etc. When you have the double lines, then you're at high pressure. I cook almost everything at high pressure with the exception of starches. Now, the one thing that you can't do very successfully in a pressure cooker is to cook sugar-based or dairy-based dishes in here. It will actually starch. But other than that, it's very, very difficult to overcook anything in a pressure cooker. In fact, I fell asleep while I had a pot roast on, and I didn't burn anything, but that meat just completely fell apart. It just got more and more tender. It's a fabulous, fabulous way to cook. In fact, I love how I can take meat or whatever, something frozen from the freezer, and just plop it into the pressure cooker, and still in a matter of minutes it's cooked all the way through. Because of the intense heat, the pounds of pressure that meat's getting. So a lot of us, we tend to forget to take things out of the freezer when we know what we're going to have for dinner, but we forgot that one minor detail of taking the meat out of the freezer. You don't have to worry about that with the pressure cooker. I can take a frozen pork roast or beef roast out of the freezer, put it in my pressure cooker with a little bit of seasoning and a little bit of water, and I will have a perfect pot roast dinner in under 45 minutes. There's just so much that you can do with these. It really cuts the time off of your cooking dramatically in most cases. Also, it makes amazing potatoes. In just a matter of 3 to 5 minutes, depending on how full you have your pan, your potatoes will be done for your mashed potatoes. You can just mash them up easily by hand. You don't need a machine. Or you can put the potatoes through a potato ricer, which is fabulous, and then just add your seasoning. It makes life very, very easy. But it also keeps my kitchen at a nice low temperature instead of heating everything up, because all the heat is here. Now, the interesting thing is, a lot of people I've heard, they ask me whether or not you can use these kind of instruments on a flat stove. And as you can see, I have a flat stove. So yes, you can. No problem there. Even the pressure canner you can use on a flat stove top, as long as you're buying a good quality. For the pressure canner, I recommend the All-American. And you'll want as big as you can get to get that pressure cooking or pressure canning process over and done with as fast as possible. All right, I do actually need 3 pressure cookers sometimes for some meals, so that I can have my protein in one, my starch in another, maybe my dessert. I can even make a cheesecake in a pressure cooker, which is pretty amazing. Lorna Sass is one of my favorite authors for her pressure cooking cookbooks. She has at least 3 of them. And most of the time when you purchase a Kuhnrikon set, her book is usually included in that. She has absolutely fabulous recipes, make you look like an absolute gourmet when you use these. Part of the reason why I like to use them is because they use less heat, they use less energy, they make my food taste fabulous. I've never had an overcooked or an undercooked slab of meat now. Absolutely wonderful. So what's going to happen is you're going to put in your, you can first sear your meats or tenderize your garlic or your onions. My husband, by the way, does not like onions, and yet I will sometimes sneak them in here, and it pulverizes them so that they're in a liquid form, so he can never see the onions. And so as long as he doesn't taste an overwhelming onion taste, I can get away with still having some onions in there. Anyway, you'll just put everything that you need in here, and it doesn't have to be cut up fine. In fact, if I was doing mashed potatoes, I'd have these big slabs of potatoes that I would throw in. You need just enough water in there to create enough steam to beat on your food. And then you'll bring your pan to high heat. Just turn it on to high heat, and what you'll end up doing is once this comes to full pressure, where you have the 2 lines, I end up reducing my heat all the way to 2 or 1 because you just want to maintain that pressure. And it's really amazing. I'll show you in the next episode when I actually cook with this, but it's really amazing at how little energy you can use to keep these cooking at high pressure. They are definitely a great alternative to crock pots, although I can use my crock pots with my little tiny humless Roadrunner generator for 4 to 6 hours and still do that. But your crock pots actually have some scorch spots in them. So that's why sometimes you'll have part of the meat that got really cooked well, or part of the sauce or whatever got really cooked well on one side but not so much on another. You don't have that problem with these. You can also use these on open fire, so your gas stove you can use them on, or as long as the fire's not coming up and hitting these handles, you can even use it camping. And yes, my husband has taken my fabulous pressure cookers camping. A couple of things I want to show you is the safety features. So one of the features you have is you have this silicone ring, and this is what seals the outsides from the steam coming out of the outside. If I were to reinvest in anything for the maintenance of my units, it would be I always have a pack of the inside seal. I don't care for, they sell the black ones, and I don't care for those. They give out much faster than these nice silicone ones. So you have that, that's one safety feature. And then you have 2 other safety features as well. So this is going to enable you to release pressure if for some reason you forgot you had something on the stove. It's going to release the pressure. This will release the pressure as well. And notice when this lid is on, you see these 2 blue on both of the handles. You've got these 2 blue indicators. Okay, these, when they're out, they're telling you that it's under full pressure. So you don't want to remove them until they go down and until this goes down. As long as you can hear more hissing, you don't want to remove the lid. You want to be very careful. Now, I burned myself really, really bad once. I was actually trying to film some pressure cooking by myself using one hand and taking the lid off with another. And one of the things you don't want to do is open up the lid like this. You want to open up the lid away from you so that the steam goes the other way. It's very, very hot, needless to say. I was pretty miserable for several days. Another thing is you can actually handle this directly. You can touch this directly when you want to release pressure. And I'll show you when I'm actually cooking with it what that's like. But you could also just take a wooden spoon and hit on that to release pressure too, so if you don't want to get close to it. You won't believe how absolutely quiet these are. You may be familiar with your grandma's rocking and rolling the little metal piece, and that happens on the pressure canner. But these are very, very quiet, even when they're up at high heat. As long as you're not overheating this, you're just going to have a nice, gentle, mild hiss. And that's when you know it's cooking and everything's going well. So there's just a basic introduction to the pressure cookers. I wouldn't suggest, even if you're by yourself, I wouldn't suggest getting a really small pressure cooker. There's just so much you can do, and leftovers in this are great. That's an indicator to me that the meat has been cooked really well, is even the next day it still tastes nice and moist. I would go more with this size, or if you really like to entertain a lot, or you like big roasts or an entire brisket. Can you imagine how good a brisket would be made in this? I would get the bigger size. Now that just led me to one other thing I wanted to point out. Spare ribs are challenging to do. I mean, they need just the right tenderness in the open fire, and so really that's kind of hard. Same with brisket. So what I will do is I will actually pre-cook them in here, and then just before they're done, I'll take them out. I'll put them on the grill or on the broiler, baste them, and then I'll put them in the broiler for like just a minute, just to give them that same appearance as if they were cooked over the grill for all this time. So anyway, that's everything I can possibly think of to tell you about my absolute favorite kitchen utensil, my pressure cookers. If you'd like more information on this, there's plenty of articles on the blog at PreparednessPro.com. See you next time.
Good change the world.